Shalom. So summer's here. Let's talk about if we're allowed to go swimming in a swimming pool on Shabbat. There are those people, Baruch Hashem, got a lovely house, a lovely garden, and a swimming pool in the back garden. You're allowed to have a swim on Shabbat. Maybe get a bit of exercise, maybe give the kids something to do, to play. Is it permitted? Well, we're certainly not the first people to ask this question. Great rabbis have talked about this over the last 100 years, even more. And the basic conclusion of all of them is it's not a good idea. There are three levels that they bring of why it's forbidden. There are those who forbid it from the letter of the law, that it's really absolutely a transgression of the Shabbat laws. There are those who say that it's a long-standing custom not to do it. And then finally there are those who say, well, it's just not in the spirit of Shabbat, not so Shabbosdik. Let's go and look at all those explanations and see how that plays out. What would be the reasons for those who say it's forbidden from the letter of the law, that it's really Shabbat transgression? Well, they bring two reasons. The first is that there's a Mishnah in Masechet Beitza on page 30 that has a long list of things that are forbidden rabbinically. And one of them is that it's forbidden on Shabbat to swim on the water on Shabbat. The Gemara explains that why did the rabbis forbid a person from swimming on the sea, in the river on Shabbat? Because they were afraid that a person might build some type of vessel to save them, some type of life raft or buoy or something that would keep them afloat. Apparently to swim in the river, on the sea is not so safe, and the rabbis were afraid that if we let people do that, the next thing you know is they'll be cutting boards and building life jackets and things like that, and so the rabbis forbade it. On the other hand, we have a Gemara in Masechet Shabbat on page 40, that says that in a vessel, in a kli, a person is allowed to swim on Shabbat. What's the defining line between where the rabbis forbade it and when the rabbis permitted it? So the Gemara explains two conditions. It's permitted in a vessel to swim if, first of all, it's in a walled-in courtyard. That's the first thing. If the place you're going to swim is in a walled-in courtyard, it doesn't really look like the river, it doesn't look like the sea. And it's much more like you're just inside a large pot or something, where the rabbis weren't afraid that you were going to start building lifeboats and things like that. The second condition, apart from being in a walled-in courtyard, is that the pool you're in has to actually have walls that rise up above the water level, so that if water splashes, it hits the wall and returns into the pool. By having walls like this, the swimming pool itself looks much more like a vessel and less like the sea than a river. So, before we go anywhere, there are some swimming pools that are going to be forbidden from the letter of the law. First of all, if they're not in an enclosed courtyard, if we don't have a fence around the pool completely. Secondly, even if it does have a fence, if it's a pool that doesn't have sides that rise up above the water level, it's going to be forbidden. I've seen ads for lovely new pools that have kind of like this fashionable beachfront type style, where the water moves onto this fake beach land that kind of slides down into the water. In such a case, it'll be forbidden. But if you have a traditional pool where you've got walls and sides to the pool, then there's something to talk about. The second rule that might be a transgression of the laws of Shabbat with using a swimming pool is deciding what we're going to wear. Even if you wear your bathing suit, your swimming costume, and it's going into the water with chlorine, which isn't really going to do laundry, it's going to make most of us need to wash our swimming suits after we've used them in the water, in the pool, because the chlorine makes the suit dirtier. So there might not be a problem of laundry. But there might be a rabbinic decree that it's forbidden to wet things lest you come to squeeze them out. Squeezing a garment out on Shabbat is totally forbidden, according to all opinions. To squeeze a garment from the liquid that's in it is totally forbidden. So perhaps it's forbidden to go into the pool lest you come to squeeze it. In truth, Great rabbis of the last generation argued about this question. Rav Avaji Yosef said, no, a swimming suit is designed to be wet. No one cares if it's wet. You'll come out of the pool, you'll take it off and you'll leave it wet. Rav Moshe Feinstein Zatzal said, no, we do have to be concerned. It's forbidden to go swimming in a swimming suit, even in a place that's permitted, because the way of people is to squeeze it out. From my own experience, whenever I've gone to the pool or the beach, in the change room afterwards, I see that the first thing people do when they remove their swimming suits is to squeeze them out. So my logic goes more with line with Rav Feinstein, but those people who are trying to be lenient do have on who to rely, Rav Avaji Yosef Zatzal, on condition, of course, that they don't actually squeeze them out, that everyone agrees would be forbidden. They're the reasons for transgressions. What is the logic of those who say it's customary? It's because the Ramah and the Shulchan Aruch already brings early rabbis, the Maharil and others, who made a decree that even without swimming, even just standing on your feet without lifting your feet up, just bathing, just standing in cold water is forbidden on Shabbat. And they gave many reasons for that. One of them is perhaps you'll push water where there's no eruv. Perhaps you'll walk out of the water where there's no eruv and you'll carry all the water on your body. Perhaps you'll come to squeeze out your hair that's forbidden on Shabbat. So there's a long-standing Ashkenazi custom to totally forbid bathing, even without swimming, in cold water on Shabbat. Now it's true that the Sephardim didn't accept this, and it's true that even Ashkenazi rabbis are lenient in some conditions, for example, for the use of a mikvah, or perhaps in the privacy of one's home, in the shower, in cold water, when a person feels not comfortable and they need to have a cold shower on Shabbat. But when it comes to the use of a swimming pool for pleasure, that I saw that at least all the Ashkenazi rabbis say that it's a long-standing tradition that's recorded in the Shulchan Aruch that we refrain from such a thing. And the third level is the level of, it's not in the spirit of Shabbat. It's not what we call Shabbosdik. It's not the way a person should approach Shabbat, to spend their time in the pool. So let's summarize what we learned. The overwhelming consensus of the rabbis is that it's forbidden to go swimming on Shabbat. But we did see that in certain cases, perhaps if there were special medical needs, or if one had very young children and there were great needs for them, there is a place to talk to your local rabbi and see if that special exception might apply to your case. But in general, we should enjoy Shabbat with the family, with words of Torah, with learning, and spending our time together with the family out of the pool. Shalom uvracha.